What a great city we live in. Home to a beautiful downtown, a place to live, work, and play, and a metropolitan area filled with economic growth. But while we witness how great our city is becoming, one statistic deserves our attention. Since 2007, the city of Frederick has seen a dramatic increase in heroin and opiate use. Not only is heroin addictive, it is often fatal. The Frederick Police Department is taking action by conducting investigations to suppress the sale of heroin in our community and issuing naloxone to officers to reverse overdoses and save lives. Heroin and opiate abuse is not just a policing issue. It is a community issue. We are partnering with health agencies, treatment, and community groups, but we all need your help. We need to act before it's too late. We want this video to educate the community and to create a proactive approach to this increasingly deadly epidemic. Heroin use is a concern right now in our community, and we are asking parents, family members, friends, teachers, neighbors, please be on the lookout. Heroin addicts need our help. It is not a matter of if heroin leads to death, but when.
Heroin is a highly addictive drug derived from morphine, a type of opiate. Heroin and other opiates are downers or depressants that affect the brain's pleasure systems and interfere with the brain's ability to perceive pain. Prescription pain medications such as Oxycontin and Vicodin are also opiates. They can have effects similar to heroin when taken in doses or in ways other than prescribed, and they are currently among the most commonly abused drugs in the United States. Research now suggests that abuse of these drugs may open the door to heroin abuse.
Six years ago, April 7th, 6 years ago, I got clean. I was on heroin. I was strung out on heroin. Heroin was my drug of choice, although it didn't start that way. It started out with pain pills. And I went and got my wisdom teeth cut out by a doctor when I was probably about 19, 20 years old. And I was encouraged to tell the doctor that I was allergic to Tylenol because the individual that told me this obviously knew that the doctor was going to give me Tylenol with codeine, so the doctor prescribed me Vicodin. And from there, I got Percocet, and I was encouraged to chew them up, and then, next I was snorting them. So that's what introduced me to heroin. I did it for a while, and honestly, I used to look down on people who did heroin because when the first time I tried it, I was actually working at a bank down here in Frederick. I wore a tie, looked like I had it all together on the outside. And I had a group of friends that were actually doing heroin at the time. And I remember watching them, and I would watch them, nod out, like fall asleep standing up. And I used to wonder why they would want to do something that made them look like that. And I'd see them sick, like they'd vomit, and I would wonder why would you want to do something? I used to always ask them that, and whether it's peer pressure or whatever, eventually I gave in. I kept going around them, and I kept going around them. So eventually I tried it, and then after I tried it, I seen why they did it.
Heroin is usually a white to dark brown powder or tar-like substance. It can be injected, inhaled through the nose, or smoked, depending on user preference and the purity of the drug. All three ways of using heroin deliver the drug to the brain very rapidly, which contributes to its health risks and to its high risk for addiction. If someone is under the influence of heroin, they experience a drowsy state commonly called nodding. Their mental functioning becomes clouded due to the depression of the central nervous system. Other effects include slowed and slurred speech, slow movements or walking, constricted or very tiny pupils, droopy eyelids, impaired night vision, vomiting, or constipation. Regular heroin use changes the functioning of the brain. One result of that is tolerance, in which more of the drug is needed to achieve the same intensity or effect. Another result is dependence, when the body has adapted to the presence of the drug. This is when someone continues to use the drug to avoid withdrawal symptoms.
I didn't know about a physical, you get physically addicted to it, and once, you kind of lie to yourself in your head, I'll do it, 2 days, but I won't do it 3 days so I don't get sick. You do it 3 days, I'll do it 3 days, but I won't do it 4 days. And then you wake up the 4th day and you say, you know what, I'll do it this 4th day, but I won't do it tomorrow. And it turns into a week to a month, and then you panic. The last thing, from my experience, the last thing anybody wants to do is be physically sick off of heroin. It's by far the worst feeling I've ever felt in my life.
The withdrawal symptoms can begin as early as a few hours after the last drug use, and they can include restlessness, muscle and bone pain, insomnia, diarrhea and vomiting, cold flashes, and goosebumps. Users also experience severe craving for the drug during withdrawal, which can precipitate continued abuse and/or relapse.
When I put opiates in me and become physically addicted to them, it gives me permission to do whatever I want to do and hurt whoever I want to hurt. And I didn't know that at the time until I got clean, because the last person I would want to hurt is my family or my mother. But it seems like when I do heroin, that's the first person I go after, because she's always, and my mom was a big enabler with me. I love my mom to death, but now that I'm clean and I work in a treatment center, I believe there is such a thing as actually loving your child to death, literally.
Heroin abuse is associated with a number of serious health conditions, including miscarriage and infectious diseases like hepatitis and HIV. Because of one's depressed central nervous system, which controls our breathing, overdose on heroin can occur. These overdoses can be fatal, especially when heroin is combined with other substances. So how can you help? It's important to note that nearly half of young people who inject heroin reported abusing prescription opioids before starting to use heroin. Prescription medications, which include opiate pain medications, are now the most commonly abused substances among 12 and 13-year-olds. Some individuals reported switching to heroin because it's cheaper and easier to obtain than prescription opioids.
I was doing $200, could have been $400 worth a day of heroin, sniffing it, and then I would watch them, and they were getting high off of $20 a day because they were shooting it. So, $300 a day versus $20 a day. The choice wasn't hard, and I still remember exactly where I was at down in Baltimore when I put my arm in the back of the car and let that guy put a needle in my arm. And it was just, it was off to the races after that. I continued to chase that feeling.
Talk with children in your home about medication safety. Monitor your medications. Know what you have in the house and how much. Secure them just as you would secure other valuables. Consider taking them out of the medicine cabinet or kitchen and put them in a place that only you know about. And when they're no longer needed, dispose of them properly. If you're concerned that a loved one is experiencing a problem with heroin or even other substances, you may have noticed changes in their behaviors or mood, changes in their personal appearance or hygiene, problems at work or school, health issues, or even unusual items left around their home or in their car. Speak up and reach out for help. Act right away. This may mean telling the person that you're concerned about them and offering assistance with finding them a self-help support group, treatment, or a doctor. You may also decide to seek a self-help group yourself, like Al-Anon or Nar-Anon, which specialize in support for family and friends of substance users. We encourage you to learn more about medications and treatments that are available in the community, as well as learning about overdose prevention. We want people to stay alive long enough to find their way to recovery.
I think one of the things my parents struggled with, especially my mother, is we didn't raise him that way, and they felt some certain amount of shame and guilt, and it had nothing to do with my parents. It had nothing to do with my parents. I don't have, anybody in my family that is a drug addict like I was, and I think my mom, like I said, had a certain amount of guilt. I went to a Catholic school till I was in, till I was in 6th grade, and it's like, but so I hear people say that, and it's like, I didn't raise them that way, and there's this this misconception on, what a drug addict is, and or heroin. And like I said, it's I mean, I got this little saying I always tell people: from Park Place to Park Bench, from Yale to jail, it does not matter where you come from. The ages are just getting younger and younger. I'm from Emmitsburg. I'm from a small town, and it's just ripped through that town. It's ripped through Thurmont, watching people and families get ripped apart, and it hurts, because I can see now what I did to my family, because a lot of families reach out to me and ask for help, and I know they don't want to hear what I have to say, because I stick by the tough love. It's calling the cops on me is the best thing my father could have ever did. I didn't see it at the time, but if he didn't do that, I'd probably be dead or in prison with a long sentence. I'm grateful for prison now, because I see, a lot of people haven't been, in that type of environment and see what that is. And I can remember very vividly laying in a prison cell, staring at the walls, thinking, how did I get myself in a place like this? I grew up in a small town, I lived on a farm, and I went to a Catholic school, and now I'm in a cell with people who are never getting out, murders. Don't brush it aside and act like it's not happening. I know, like I said, I have a lot of families that reach out to me, and I always tell them to get the law involved, and they don't want to do that. And I hate to be so blunt about it, but I tell them, I'd rather have a child with a charge on their record than, a child that, that is gone. And it's not going to come back, because that's the result of this. That's exactly what happens. If you got to call the police, call the police. Get involved. Be in your child's business. I encourage that.
Proactive measures need to be taken. We are asking for your help to be part of the solution. In 2007, Frederick police seized only 6 grams of opiates. In 2012, more than 160 grams were seized. This number continues to rise. It is a time we all help, recognize the symptoms, and call for help. There are numerous resources for loved ones to seek help and assistance. Narcotics Anonymous and the Health Department of Frederick County are valuable resources and are available to help. The time is now. Heroin has no place in the city of Frederick's promising future.